Hi, folks. We're back with Governor Sam Brownback, the governor of the great state of Kansas, and also, of course, he served in Washington for 16 years?
Yes.
16 years. And, of course, you and our own J.D. Hayworth came in together.
We came into Congress together. We 20 years ago, first Republican Congress in 40 years.
Yeah.
We had to have practice sessions on how to run the House of Representatives because the only people that had been there when we had run it before had been interns. 40 years earlier, and so we got to practice this, guys. How are we going to do this? And it was, but what a great season! I mean, Newt Gingrich was speaker.
Yeah, that was a
things were changing, and it was like the second wave of Reaganism. You know, Reagan comes in, and the country goes, "That's what I want." And then we were kind of the second wave. Okay, here's what we're going to try to do in moving things forward as a country.
Contract with America.
Yeah.
Now, do you think it would have been beneficial maybe if the president could have practiced before he came into the White House? Boy, things are so bad on so many different levels in this country, and that speaks possibly to why people are so disenchanted, even in Kansas.
I think so. I mean, people, you ask them about the direction of the country, and they are really concerned. They're not just mad, they're concerned, and they're going, can't you guys get us moving in the right direction? I mean, and it's like the America that they want is just kind of slipping away from them.
When you see the president yesterday on 60 Minutes throwing James Clapper under the bus, that, well, we didn't know about ISIS, we should have known, but and he mentions Clapper by name. When we know that he got a presidential daily briefing for well over a year, included step by step every day about ISIS. I mean, here's a guy who every scandal, every problem, he's basically, well, I just saw it on CNN with the rest of the country. I didn't know. How is that possible?
That stretches one's imagination. Plus, just imagine the situation anyway. All right, we go into Iraq, we put a lot of blood on the line, and we clean the place up, and then you pull out. What do you think is going to happen after that situation? When we've been in countries for a number of years afterwards to get them to stabilize, what do you think is going to happen? Exactly what is happening is going to happen.
As George Bush predicted in '07.
I know it. I look at this, and it's just not a stable place. And going in and getting it cleaned up, you're going to have to stay there to stabilize the place because they're not used to democracy. They're not used to how you would run things in a civil society. I think this is highly predictable. And we've got the Big Red One out of Kansas is going in with their headquarters into Iraq, and I just, Godspeed, and all our prayers go with you. But
you served in Congress, and I don't know what kind of personal relationships you had with presidents and what, but this president, by all accounts, has virtually no relationships with even members of his own party. Even ticked off Harry Reid, at one point when he said, you handle it on some issue. When he would not negotiate on the budget or the debt ceiling, about a year ago, no negotiation. I will not, go ahead, close down the government, he said, when of course he's the only one who could close down the government. That was unprecedented. There have been government shutdowns, there have been negotiations, there have been givebacks, but he said no negotiations. I mean, how do you act as president with that kind of attitude?
I don't know. And to me, a president ought to be out there and trying to, what are we going to do?
Play golf with people at least,
Well, I mean, let's talk. What do you think? What about this? What about that? I mean, that's what it takes to get something to move on through, particularly a legislative body. You got to be discussing with people and keeping in contact with them. And I don't know why he took those routes that he did, and maybe he decided that's a better way for him to go politically.
Absolutely.
Overall. But for the country, then it stalls everything. Yep. And they haven't had an appropriation bill going through in a long time, a budget in 4 years, and you're just going, the system is designed to work, but you got to let the system work.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, he didn't catch a lot of heat for that, and that brings up the double standard in media, something we talk about a lot on this show, the way Republicans and Democrats, I mean, some of the things Joe Biden has said about Obama being the first, clean, articulate black American to run for president, other things he said, I mean, recently about Asians and about Jews and Shylock. I think back to George Allen. I think back to so many Republicans who put their foot in their mouth and they're out. You have a candidate, an opponent, I don't know if you want to talk about it, who was involved with the strip club incident, and I don't know how much play is that getting in the media, and how much play do you think, if it couldn't happen, if it were you caught up in some kind of similar scandal? Is there do you see that double standard?
Well, I'm not going to talk about the case of my opponent. I'm glad that it was a meth bust that took place, and I'm glad they busted it because meth has been such a scourge in our state and area. But You know, the way I look at it, we just got to push on forward. Got to merrily be, happy warriors. We got to have a good plan that we put forward, which is what we've been doing in the state of Kansas. You got to implement it, which we've been doing it, and there's difficulty when you get that done, because anytime you push policy sets of proposals forward, there are people for it, people against it, and you get caught up. And at the end of the day, it pays off. It paid that Reagan was who he was.
Absolutely.
It paid that we did the things we did in Congress when I was there.
When you win re-election, you'll call us or do a Skype with us the day after?
We'll do that.
All right, we got a deal.
Good
All right,
Steve. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Give
Governor.
JD my best.
I will. You just did. I'm sure they'll run it on his show tomorrow. I hope so. Governor Sam Brownback, ladies and gentlemen. Coming up next, we'll talk to Gordon Chang about Hong Kong and China. Don't go away.